Hi there guys, Tom Quayle here. Hope you're all doing very well as ever out there in YouTube land. Today I'm checking out another product. This is the Reload 2 from my friends at 2Notes. Now the first thing that struck me when I grabbed the Reload 2 and when I saw it online when the guys from 2Notes asked me if I wanted to check it out is the aesthetic upgrade. Aesthetically, this thing appeals to me hugely. I'm a synth collector. All my synths have these wooden cheeks on. It just adds a lovely, unique, beautiful aesthetic touch to the products. And in this case, it looks fantastic. It can be rack mounted as well, and it comes with the rack ears. Really high quality metal chassis, just like the original Reload as well, but this is much more aesthetically pleasing. All the knobs, the dials, the switches, the jacks, they all feel incredibly professional. So what is the Reload 2? Well, essentially, this is an attenuator. So it's going to make your very loud tube amp much quieter, and I'll explain why I'm using this amp on a breadboard up here shortly. It's also a power amp. So you can plug, there's a couple of line-ins on the back, 2 channels. You can see the 2 channels here. You can, instead of plugging an amp into here, you could plug, say, a Quad Cortex or an Axifex or any line level product and use this as a 215 watt stereo per channel or dual mono power amp. So I'll demonstrate that later on. So if you're playing live and you want to use the Quad Cortex through cabs or whatever, you can do that through this and it sounds amazing. Again, you can use the Mojo buttons on there and the presence and the depth controls that you've got for the power amp as well. That also means that you can plug lower wattage amplifiers into this and make them louder. So if you've got like a 10 watt amp, for example, and you can't crank it enough because there's not enough headroom, plug it into here, use the power amps to amplify that sound transparently and then run it through the cabs and have a much louder sound with much more headroom because you're amplifying post the stage. And again, 215 watts per channel, which is fantastic. As an attenuator in a load box, this will actually accept anything up to a 200 watt amplifier. I've got a 50 watt head plugged in here, but up to 200 watts of headroom in there, which is phenomenal. You can use the amp in level here to adjust it to fit perfectly. You can see when I play, you're not hearing anything at the moment, but you can see I've got the level set perfectly in the green there for my standard kind of level, which is awesome. That's really useful. It also accepts 4 ohms, 8 ohms, and 16 ohms, which is something that people complained about with the Captor X, that you had to buy the one that fitted with the actual ohmage of your cabs and amplifier. In this case, this accepts all 3, which is fantastic. And to top it all off, you also have line outs. So you've got XLR balanced line outs that can go straight to your audio interface. And you've got a stereo effects loop on there, which can run in wet, dry mode. So you can run your effects where you kill the dry signal. I have a Boss SDE 3000 plugged into here. I'm not running it that way. I'm actually running it just in the standard kind of mode, but you could run it in wet, dry mode. And that gives you tons of options. You could run one cab wet with only effects, run another cab in channel B that's using just the dry signal, for example. Or you could run in true stereo where you've got the ping pong delays going left and right if you wanted to. It's a phenomenal thing, really, really great. And that effects loop will accept line level and kind of instrument or pedal level signals as you so wish, which is fantastic. The way I've got it set up at the moment is I'm running both channels in like a linked mode. So channel A and channel B are linked together. And I've got 2 cabs here. So I've got 1 amplifier, the amp is plugged into the Reload 2, and then there's 2 cabs plugged in, and I can change the level of both cabs independently using both channels. But you could, of course, have an amp plugged into channel 1 and a modeler plugged into channel 2 if you want to switch between those. There's loads of different ways you can run it. You can split the channels to run in dual mono mode or in like a linked A-B mode, which is really fantastic. The other thing I've done is I've actually run line output of channel A into my audio interface, and I'm running 2Notes Genome software, so you're going to hear that as well. And that's doing the cab modeling, and I've got some effects in there like stereo delay post. So I'll switch this delay off, this SDE 3000 when I do that. So it's a phenomenal thing, absolutely amazing, really well built with a ton of different features. Last little bit of detail, there is a little badge on here that says Celestion approved load box. I think that's what it says. Yeah, Celestion approved load response. Celestion have actually approved the kind of response curve of this particular load box. Now, I've always in the past, even with 2Notes products, had a little bit of kind of feel issues and like never been quite 100% happy with the way load boxes have sounded. And I remember watching Rabir's video where he kind of took a load of different load boxes from different manufacturers and showed that they all have different responses to them. The one I liked the sound of was the one that sounded like Celestion Vintage 30. okay, through, I think it was a 1x12 or a 4x12 cab. Now this just happens to be approved by Celestion, and it feels and sounds amazing. So I've got a Laney cab here, and I've also got a Zilla cab down here. This is the one that's normally mic'd up in a different room, but I brought it in here just to demonstrate the volume potential of this. The Zilla is just mic'd up with an SM57, super simple setup. The Laney is in channel B, and the Zilla is in channel A. At the moment, you might just be able to hear the rattle of the transformers going. If I turn up channel A, there's the lowest attenuation setting. Again, 50 watt amp, the volumes are set just over halfway to give me some crunch. Feels and sounds fantastic. If I raise up one more notch, now this control is notched, so you can set it very precisely. You can hear the effects loop as well. That is what this amp sounds like. It's absolutely fantastic. If I got one more notch here, notice I've got the Mojo switch on as well. I'll talk about that in a second. Absolutely awesome. Now I can crank this. Fantastic response. It feels really, really wonderful. Now what I can also do here is I can bring in, if I just notch this down one, now you're not going to hear this via the mic, obviously you're hearing this via the lapel mic here, but I can bring in cab B, which is the Laney, to fill out the sound a little bit more. Really, really wonderful. And again, if this amp was, you know, plugged it straight into the cab in the room, I would be deaf right now. It's obscenely loud, and you can see where we are on the cab here in terms of the volume. It's really, really nice in the room. Now the Mojo switch, if I just bring the Laney out here, the Mojo switch is just adding, who knows what it does? I have no idea specifically what it does. It's probably some kind of EQ curve or something. Maybe adding in an extra transformer somewhere, I have no idea, but it sounds great and feels great. So if we switch it out, then bring it in, really, really fantastic. I'm going to do that one more time, just switch it in and out, just playing some power chords. I don't know, it seems to tighten things up and add some fatness and warmth to the low end. It's cool. It's just a really nice button to have on there. Personally, I would just leave it switched in all the time when I was running the cabs at low volume. I think it sounds wonderful. So you've also got the depth and the presence controls on there. So let's check those out. Now I'll leave the Mojo switch in and we'll leave it at this volume. And let's bring these all the way down. Now I don't know whether these attenuate the depth and the presence or whether this is like nothing. I can't see like any controls that tell you that the middle position is neutral, for instance. But with them all the way off, So they are doing an awful amount of heavy lifting there to really improve that tone and make it feel fantastic when the cab is very low level in the room. They've really powerful controls. And again, to use them here, they feel really solid, really easy to kind of dial in, which is fantastic. So again, my preference for this amp is the depth up over halfway and the presence just under halfway. Bring the gain down back a little bit, back to crunch territory. And everything remains super responsive. So you could hear when I was playing there, my pick attack, kind of the amount I'm digging in, everything feels just like the original amp. Very cool indeed. Now, the other way I've got this set up at the moment, as I mentioned, I've got Genome plugged in to the DAW via Studio One. I'm using the converters on my audio interface and the latency is set very low. If I up the output on here, and I'm going to turn the delay off in the effects loop so that we're using the delay within Genome. Now what we've got is just the DAW sound from the same amp. And again, the response is wonderful. Within Genome, you actually get a tailored version of Genome for the Reload 2, so like Genome Reload 2 Edition, which has got a bunch of great sounding cabs. I'm using a Sur 4x12 with a Royal 121 and an SM57. The delay is coming from Genome. There's a bunch of different effects built in there. It's very easy to use. You can see on the B-roll here, the interface, so on and so forth. And being able to, just straight from the unit here, switch between the cab and Genome, playing them together is going to be interesting because we'll get a little bit of phasing. But what's really nice about that is you can actually run Genome for all your effects through the DAW with your studio monitors and then have the cab in the room as well and dial in the exact amount of cab that you want. While Genome does all your studio quality stereo effects in the background. It's absolutely wonderful. So in that regard, again, really useful in terms of the ability to kind of flexibly set up the signal path as you want it in the studio. So the other thing I want to show you is this switch just here, and I'm going to set up the quad cortex in channel B and show you that this line level switch here allows you to move from running amps and attenuating those, or using it as a load box, or just running stereo cabs or whatever with the effects loop. So then being able to use it as a power amp with devices like the quad cortex. So I'm going to set that up now and let you guys hear how that sounds. So I've plugged the quad cortex in. What I've done is I've taken a mono output from the quad cortex and plugged it into channel B. And then that is going into this cab here. Now you could do exactly the same as I did with the amp, where you could run it in mono and go to 2 cabs, or you could run it in stereo, true stereo, with 2 stereo cabs on stage, or 2 mono cabs in stereo on stage. There's a bunch of different ways you could do this. I'm keeping it very, very simple. And of course, I can use the effects on the quad cortex, or I can use the effects loop here. So I've turned all the cab sims off on the quad cortex, and it sounds like this. Fantastic sound, and I've got the mojo, I've got the depth and the presence control, so I could up the presence here. Because this is a true power amp, so you've got all of that functionality, that kind of power amp, as I say, functionality with depth and presence, and of course the mojo control from the Reload 2 as well. I could add in my SD 3000 or any other effects I've got in the effects loop here, and again run those in wet, dry, or whatever configuration I want. Or, of course, as I mentioned, I could come over to the quad cortex and turn on the effects there and listen to the effects that way. There's so much flexibility with this unit, there really, really is. It's absolutely wonderful. And of course, I also have the ability to send the output via this control just here, either to front of house or wherever I need it to go, and I could do that from my modeler as well. So much flexibility available here. And at any point, I can switch back to the amp signal. So I could have an amp plugged in here as well. It would be totally safe because the Reload would always be acting as a load for the amplifier, and I could switch between whichever signal I wanted to. And on top of that, because it's a power amp, of course, I've got a ton of headroom. I'm going to go crazy with the volume here, but up to 215 watts per channel in stereo for amplifying my sound on stage. So totally gig ready. So I know this phrase gets used a lot, but I genuinely think Two Notes have knocked it out of the park with this unit, and I need one of these in my studio now. It just is a phenomenal sounding piece of kit, and also aesthetically incredibly pleasing. Again, if you rack mounted it, you could put it in a case and have it road ready as well. I probably wouldn't risk my wooden side cheeks here with road ready stuff, but in the studio it looks fantastic in this configuration. Rack mount it into a some kind of flight case, and you're ready to go on the road as well, because the chassis is absolutely built like a tank. It's amazing. So there we go, guys. That is the Reload 2. That covers the vast majority, if not all of its feature set, and I am absolutely in love with it. I think it's fantastic. So as I say, one of these is going to enter my studio very, very soon indeed, I'm sure. If you want to know more about the Reload 2, check out the link down below. The first link you'll find will take you to Two Notes website, where you can find out more information about the Reload 2. And as ever, if you want to support me in the work that I do on my YouTube channel, I say work, this isn't a real job, it's awesome, but you know what I mean. If you want to support me, you can check out the links down below. Check out my lesson material on legato and on improvisation and harmony, all those good things. And also my app solo and my ultimate fretboard visualization course, which you can check out down below as well. There is a code down below that you can check out, which is going to get you a discount off that course as well. So check that out too. All right, guys. My name's Tom Quayle. Thanks for Two Notes for letting me check out the Reload 2, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.